köszönöm, Úr is olyan. I don't think.
As faculty marshal, I declare the awarding of diploma ceremony open and direct that the academic procession begin. Please remain in your seats until all our faculty and students have entered. Welcome, class of 2024, families, friends, and faculty. Today, we not only celebrate our graduates and their accomplishments, but also their family and friends who have supported them through this journey. Today is as much for our graduates' families as it is for our graduates. Please stand for the singing of our national anthem by the University of Pittsburgh Health Science a cappella group, The Palpitations.
Stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. I now invite Dr. Gaitan Scrow, Associate Professor of Medicine, to give the invocation.
It's an honor to be asked by the students to give the invocation. I hope their expectations are appropriately calibrated. I am just a government doctor, after all. One definition of invocation is to engage someone or something for assistance. And I like that idea. We all need assistance. If I could recommend a single most useful disposition for the practice of medicine, it would be humility. We all need assistance. I'm not alone. A survey of residency program directors found that the most sought-after quality in a future resident was the willingness to ask for help. The late poet and theologian John O'Donohue reminded us that the world is always larger and more intense and stranger than our best thought will ever reach. For you will be invincible and vulnerable in the same breath, which is the breath of your patients. For their breath is our breathing and our reason. For the patient will know the answer, and you will ask him, ask her. For the family may know the answer. For there may be no answer, and you will know too little again. Or there will be an answer, and you will know too much forever. Indeed, you will need to find a way to welcome these mysteries into your life, to approach them with curiosity instead of fear, to accept the opportunities to deepen your humility, not as defeats, but as presence. In that, you will need assistance, in whatever form you find it. The form I offer is poetry, specifically this poem by John O'Donohue. It's called Beannacht, which is an Irish word for blessing. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of loss gets into you, may a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and azure blue, come to awaken in you a meadow of delight. When the canvas frays in the curragh of thought and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life.
I now invite Dr. Janet Pettigrew, Associate Dean for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and Assistant Dean for Student Affairs and Faculty Affairs, to the podium.
Today's graduating MD students entered our medical school in August of 2020, a year that needs no introduction. As part of our white coat ceremony for incoming students, we asked them to recite the modern Hippocratic Oath. In 2020, we started the tradition of having each entering class also develop their own class oath. We felt it was important for students to contemplate the responsibilities that they would be assuming as student doctors and the kind of physicians they would strive to become at Pitt Med. We'd like to share this brief video featuring a few of the students who volunteered to serve on the oath writing committee. This is a retrospective piece, an opportunity for the class of 2024 to reflect on the experiences they've had at Pitt Med and how those experiences have further refined their thinking of the physicians they aspire to be. Graduates, we hope this reminds you of the values you held dear as incoming students, understanding that you will continue to evolve and grow as you play a critical role in meeting the world's great need.
So 2020, that was a pivotal year for I think everyone in the world. There was a pandemic, there was the racial justice movement, and I think for me, I was looking for a way in which I could leave an impact on my community.
Coming into medical school and having these experiences that we had, we wanted to make sure that our oath captured what we felt the medical system and healthcare systems needed, as well as this need and responsibility to partner with the communities around us, because ultimately what we're doing, we're servant leaders and we're serving our community.
Like 20% of health is the pathology, the physiology, the pharmacology, but the whole 80% that comes from, where are they going to get their meal when they get home? How many kids do they have home to feed? When's the next time? What was the last time they even have to see a doctor? Can they get to a doctor? What's their housing environment like? Do they have heat? Do they have AC? Whatever it may be. That is the 80%. And if we as physicians prioritize health, then we need to encompass all 100% of that.
as a med student, I had the experience of a patient passing away, and I had the experience of having to talk to their spouse after that. And that realization that you can't do anything for them at that point, but you can still try to be human and recognize what they're going through. And I think at the core that connects back to probably every statement we wrote in the oath.
We have so much work to do, and I hope that the oath for all of us can just serve as a reminder of commitment that we have to the people of Pittsburgh and the world.
I invite Dr. Anantha Shaker, Senior Vice Chancellor for the Health Sciences, John and Gertrude Peterson, Dean, School of Medicine, and Professor of Psychiatry, to the lectern.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. All right, okay, good, thank you. It's my pleasure, really, to welcome all of the assembled parents and family and supporters of our wonderful graduates this year. Your efforts and your support has brought these young men and women to this extraordinary time in their life to graduate with these incredible degrees from an amazing medical school. So thank you for everything you have done for them. I would like to give you a big applause. Behind me are some of the great brains of the School of Medicine. These are the wonderful people that have supported you, whether through the dean's office, whether through department chairmanships, or great distinguished faculty that you see in the front row. They are the brains and heart and engine of the medical school, and it's always a pleasure for me to not only lead them, but to celebrate this great event with all of you. So I would like to also have all of my colleagues here be thanked for their wonderful and appropriate, and I'm sure very heartfelt support for you over the last 4 to 5 years. So thank you all. Now about the graduating class of this year. The class of 2024, they're both medical and graduate students here. Some of you may have started graduate studies before that. But all of you medical students joined, as we saw, in August of 2020. And that was an extraordinary time for the entire globe. And it was particularly extraordinary time for Pittsburgh, where the previous pandemic was also a major focus of research and innovation. So we have always proudly called ourselves the city and the medical school that created the polio vaccine and fought the last pandemic to affect the globe. And it was very heartening to see that same progress and the same dedication with all of our researchers, with all of our clinicians, and of course, you as the starting medical class during that year. I too started with that same situation, and I understand how that first year was difficult. Like, I'm sure you tried to master all of the medical school curriculum of the first year through Zoom. I ran 6 schools and the entire health system here at Pitt through Zoom. So it's it's kind of fitting that we both survived that and are still standing here to reach this day of graduation. So congratulations on your grit and your innovation to make this journey through that horrible period. But what it also showed us is the amazing innovation that is part of medical care and medicine and medical research. While it took almost 10 years to get the to get the polio vaccine developed, approved, and administered all across the country, it took less than 2 years to not only study the COVID virus, to develop an antibody for that, to develop vaccines for that, and begin to roll it out across the globe within 2 years. So that is how far we have come in medical discovery and innovation and the ability to bring our research to our patients. This was not in any way possible without a lot of wonderful support. And the top of the line of that innovation and support has to be the National Institute of Health, who have traditionally supported extraordinary research all over the country, but also at Pitt, and supported some of the major trials that we did for COVID antibodies led by several of our investigators and chairs, and supported by the National Institute of Health to get 4 potential treatments approved for hospitalized COVID patients. So all of this in 2 years, and that's the extraordinary progress we've seen in medicine. On the darker side, we also saw COVID completely expose all of the inequities and disparities that is also underlying all of our healthcare and our society in general. It was also the time of great social awakening and societal questioning of our values, our infrastructure, and our future. And that's what inspired all of you to make the oath, the class oath that you committed to. You were the first class, and you were the trendsetters in creating an annual oath for our medical students that are matriculating into Pitt Med. So again, you were not only resilient and creative in surviving through COVID and coming up with this extraordinary event that you're reaching today, but you also faced head-on the question of health disparities and social justice. So we are eternally thankful for your vision and you pushing us to do more than we traditionally did. I think you just heard that one of the key components of being a great medical innovator, physician, is the sense of humility. And I would add to that, humility and compassion will take you very far and make you successful in whatever field you choose, in whatever part of the world you end up serving, and whatever community you're part of. You will end up leading that community, leading the cause that you're working on, and leading the field that you're working in if you have both humility and compassion. With that, I welcome you to this wonderful event. I look forward to celebrating your completion of your MD, PhD, or other graduate degrees today. And of course, very much part of following your careers from here on to as long as we remain in touch. So thank you all, and welcome to this ceremony. Okay, so it's my pleasure now to welcome Professor Salim Khan, our Associate Dean for Graduate Education, to present the next part of the program.
Thank you, Dr. Shekhar, and good afternoon to everyone. Dear students, colleagues, families, and friends, it's a great honor for me to be here today and join you in celebrating the accomplishments of our graduates. They have worked very hard to reach this special day, and we are very proud of them all. The School of Medicine currently has 550 graduate students, and with Dr. Shekhar's strong support, this number is going to increase to 800 in the next few years. This year, the school has awarded 61 master's and 69 PhD degrees, and these students are recognized in the program. Today, we'll be hooding 7 master's and 20 PhD students who are present here to receive their degrees. The graduate students in our medical school complete their degrees throughout the year, and most of them have already moved on to take the next steps in their careers. We congratulate them all and hope that some may be joining remotely. So let's give a big round of applause to all our master's and PhD graduates today. Our thriving biomedical graduate programs reflect the emergence of Pitt School of Medicine as a major international center for research, discovery, and innovation. Our highly accomplished graduate students have contributed significantly to the rise of Pitt Med research funding from the National Institutes of Health, where we consistently rank in top 5 or 10 medical schools in the country. For all the graduates receiving degrees today, marks the formal completion of your training in identifying important scientific questions and answering them through original research. I know you have overcome many challenges that include failed experiments, Western blots that never seem to come out just right, and reviewers of manuscripts who always wanted you to do one more experiment. But through it all, you have survived, and I'm sure through many sleepless nights, you persevered and never lost hope. The work that you have accomplished is at the leading edge of science and medicine, and we are very proud of your accomplishments. But today is only just another beginning. You are now prepared to make your mark as scientific innovators and make new discoveries. We need you to advance research on major public health issues such as infectious diseases, cardiovascular diseases, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's diseases, and countless others. In recent years, as we all know, the importance and validity of science and scientific methods has been severely challenged. You will be in a position to advance the cause of science by helping to earn public trust and support for biomedical research. You are now ready to move forward, explore new ideas, and make your mark in the world. Your talents are needed more than ever. We are counting on you to make the world a better place. Once again, congratulations and thank you. We will now proceed with the hooding of the Medical Scientist Training Program PhD candidates. Will the platform party please take your position?
Wesley Brown. Anson Burr. Allison Butler. Raphael Crum. Samuel Denull. George Gabriel. Michael Granovetter. Alex Layden. Mariana Owak. Roger Tew. Paolo Dario Vignali. Megan Eileen Yates.
Thank you. I will now invite Dr. Richard Steinman, Associate Dean and Director for the Medical Scientist Training Program and Associate Professor of Medicine and of Pharmacology and Chemical Biology, to the lectern.
We will now proceed with the hooding of Master of Science and PhD candidates. So the platform party is at its place. Please proceed.
Coley C. Anderson. Timothy Michael Bober. Jennifer Tamara Hernandez. Ryan Matthew Hale. Jacob Kantorowicz. Yu Hee Seo. Karis Marie Vanderpoy. Maria Laura Beecher. Francisco Javier Bonilla Escobar. Grace Paola Correno Flores. Luping Chen. Haley Alexis Cosgrove. Karen Elena Farrell. Matthew T. Keeney. Jonathan Kolonowski. Antonia Miadanova Kolobarich. Kira Lynn Lathrop. Michelle Lee Lenski. Michael Ross Marks. Belina Arila Sky Mushala. Thais Rafael Guimarais. Alicia Cecilia Zabutra. Tiffany Shanice Taylor. Sanjana Ajay Toser. Xia Yang Yu. Daniel Y. Yuan.
This concludes the hooding and awarding of diplomas for the Master of Science and Philosophy of Science degrees. I will now invite my colleague and one of my heroes, Joanne Flynn, Distinguished Professor and Chair, Department of Microbiology and Molecular Genetics, and Assistant Dean, Medical Scientist Training Program, to the lectern.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here to talk to all the graduates and their family and friends. But I'm speaking to the PhD, master's, and MD PhD students specifically today. To all of you who are graduating today, congratulations on your perseverance and resilience in obtaining your degree. A higher education degree is a commendable achievement, and each of you and your families should be very proud of your accomplishments. Many of you started or were in graduate school during the COVID-19 pandemic, probably all of you, which turned our lives upside down. That was a very tough time for all of us, but particularly those in graduate school, some of whose research had to stop or pause or change. But you made it through a combination of grit, dedication, flexibility, hard work, and patience. I'm so proud of all of you. The pursuit of biomedical research is critically important. The potential for making breakthroughs and changing lives and the world exists for all of us scientists. This is what motivates us to keep going through the failures and tough times. Focus on the successes along the way and recognize that failure is part of the game. Failure is necessary and it gets us to the next step. I don't think there's a scientist out here who doesn't know that that is true. Sometimes it's hard to recognize where the successes are. It isn't only getting a great paper published or grant funded or a talk at a major conference. The greatest part of research is that each day you can discover something that in that moment no one else in the world knows. Those are the successes that keep us going. An innate curiosity about the world makes it all worth it. My advice to each of you graduating today in taking the step on your career path is to take risks. Only by taking risks can we make real progress and change the world. Taking risks is scary. It is easy to stay in our comfort zones. But it is critical to expand our thinking and look beyond what we know or feel comfortable with. There will always be those who tell you to stay in your lane, to do what you know how to do, and to do the safe thing. But that doesn't lead to true progress. As I said, taking risks is scary, but it is exhilarating too. Jumping off that high diving board is scary, but the rush is great. And finally, remember, life is long. Mistakes can and will be made. There are very few things, though, that can't be fixed. Taking a risk in science means it might not work out, but if it does, it could be the catalyst for great discoveries. You have come so far. You have your advanced degree. Now is the time to forge your path in life. Be bold. Follow your heart and your dreams, and know that you have the education and experience to make a difference in the world. Congratulations on your achievements, be that a PhD, an MD PhD, or a master's degree. We are all proud of you, and you will forever be Pitt Panthers. Hail to Pitt.
Thank you, Dr. Flynn. So it's my pleasure now to introduce our keynote speaker for today's graduation. It's Dr. Jeannie Marazzo. Dr. Jeannie Marazzo is the current director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases of the National Institute of Health. She has been gracious and kind enough to join us today and share some of her thoughts about medicine and medical graduations. At NIAID, as it is known, Dr. Marazzo oversees an annual budget of $6.4 billion that supports research across the world that's focused on a number of infectious diseases and other related conditions. Every modern infectious disease that we know of, NIAID has been in the forefront of discovering its causes and developing treatments. Of course, this goes as far back as polio, but most impressively, HIV and other viral infections, including, obviously, COVID most recently. NIID is also unique in its mandate to respond to emerging public health threats at home and abroad. And this provides a very different approach to research. So it's result-oriented and it's certainly time-sensitive. So that's been the major, I would say, characteristic of every leader at NIAID, although we only had one for a long time. So for those of you who don't know, Dr. Marazzo is replacing the legendary Tony Fauci in his job. So this is part of her challenge, I'm sure, going forward with a lot of emerging infections. Dr. Marazzo previously served as the Director of Infectious Diseases at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, at the Hersink School of Medicine. And she is an international leader in the research focused on human microbiome, specifically as it relates to the female reproductive system, as well as prevention of HIV infections and pathogenesis and management of diseases. So she's an extraordinary scientist and clearly a scientist that has been continuously funded and made groundbreaking innovations since the last 30-some years, and is also served as a mentor for dozens of graduate students and fellows at all stages. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Jeannie Marazzo.
Thank you, Dr. Schenker, for that incredibly kind introduction. I am extremely honored to be here to celebrate you today, the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine, graduating class of 2024, with your friends and your families and the faculty and distinguished guests who are here today. It's an incredible privilege to offer some thoughts as you embark on your journey in a profession that allows us to change lives for the better every single day, encounter by encounter. I should tell you that this feels like a homecoming of sorts. I'm a native Pennsylvanian. I grew up just outside of Scranton, where our current president also resided as a kid, and went to medical school in Philadelphia. I came to Pittsburgh many times as a kid to visit my dad's sister, who raised her family in Mount Lebanon. What's more, my visit to Pitt is especially meaningful to me, as many members of your faculty have been close colleagues, collaborators, and friends throughout my whole career. Now, I know that the Hippocratic Oath typically refers to medical doctors, but in preparing this talk, I've read your inspiring class oath many times, and throughout my talk, I'll outline why I think it refers to all of you celebrating your degree today. Each time I've read your oath, I've come away with many emotions and thoughts. The most prominent one is hope. Hope for the future of our professions and for the people you will serve. Your oath shines with a passion to make our patients, our communities, and our colleagues better, from bench to bedside and across the globe. By better, I mean more whole, more fulfilled, and healthier. What a gift this is to the profession you are entering and to the people whose lives you will touch. I appreciate that in your oath you are also explicit in your commitment to support each other. As an oft-cited proverb states, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Your career will be a marathon, not a sprint. Caring for your colleagues, being attentive to their mental health, listening as non-judgmentally as possible, celebrating their successes, and being with them in their trials. That will make all the difference. Be a good friend and colleague. And take time for self-care. Your career marathon will have valleys and mountains. For those, you'll need all the strength you can muster. You may know that the word doctor derives from the Latin docere, to teach. Becoming a physician offers the chance to become a teacher and even more aspirationally, a mentor. The word mentor comes from Homer, the Odyssey. In the Odyssey, mentor is Athena, the goddess of wisdom, disguised as an old man who assures the young Telemachus that he's more capable than he knows. You likely have had mentors who have helped you get to where you are today, who perhaps helped you see the world or your career a little differently. It's been said, it's one of my favorite sayings, that the best mentor is someone who has more imagination about you than you have about yourself. I am fortunate to have had several amazing mentors who fit not only this description, but also one recently written by Dr. Suzanne Coven in a perspective in the New England Journal of Medicine. A mentor is someone who leaves you feeling more grounded than before you spoke and also lighter than air. Seek out people who make you feel that way and be that person for someone else. Like good teachers, and good parents for that matter, the best mentors are active listeners and provide guidance and feedback without judgment. You will, no doubt, have many chances to be a mentor as well as a friend. Embrace these opportunities and be generous with your considerable gifts. Another feeling I've had when I read your oath is awe, and this has been alluded to several times by previous speakers. When the start of your graduate or medical school career coincides with that of a deadly pandemic, and you make it to the other side, able to articulate such hope and clarity, there's only one word to describe you, and that is awesome. And I'd like to give you a round of applause for that. So many of us in the healthcare field are still trying to make peace with the pandemic's legacy. We mourn the lost lives, we mourn the lost opportunities, even as we draw inspiration from our community's resilience, collegiality, and care. It will take us all some time to process our individual COVID experience. Regardless, you deserve a huge round of appreciation and credit and more for making it through intact and shining. Your experiences, your skills, and the empathy that you've acquired amid the pandemic will serve you well for your entire careers. Another reaction I had while reading your oath is recognition. I see in your oath and in so many of you, many of the forces that have kept me inspired and energized in a long career devoted to understanding, preventing, and managing infectious diseases. I began my residency at a time when HIV infection conferred a death sentence. There were no antiretroviral drugs to use for treatment, let alone prevention, and it had become quickly apparent that an HIV vaccine was not going to be developed for many years. I trained in New Haven, Connecticut, and in internal medicine, and the people affected by HIV there were a true representative cross-section of those you explicitly name in your oath, quote, marginalized populations who have received substandard care as a result of their identity and limited resources, unquote. At the same time, the extent of the global AIDS pandemic was becoming clear, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. Getting involved in HIV care and research or policy was a way for us as trainees to signal that we cared about these people. We cared about a disease that robbed so many of their dignity and lives, and that seemed to be easy for the more fortunate, well-resourced sectors of society to sweep under the rug and ignore. Unfortunately, that tendency to ignore the effects of infectious diseases that target our most vulnerable still happens. I believe that stigma, a condition applied by a dominant group to create a sense of shame in others, may be the biggest barrier to ending the HIV and other pandemics in our lifetime. Sadly, there is no magic bullet. There's no magic pill, no magic shot, no magic intervention that can overcome the barriers that stigma and shame place in the way of people accessing care. This was especially apparent to me during my recent time working in Alabama, where, like many places in the Deep South, the incidence of HIV has barely nudged downward in the last 2 decades, and health disparities abound across all disciplines. So my main message to you about this is you do not need to be a professional activist, advocate, or even an infectious disease specialist to combat this. So much of your oath signals your openness to really listening to patients, to incorporating their narratives into your understanding of where they are in their lives, and to finding ways to deliver the best evidence-based care to everyone, whatever their circumstances may be. Please know that however you encounter patients, in the emergency room, in the clinic, in the research setting, in the anesthesia suite, in the OR, in industry, you can have a profound impact by signaling your openness and acceptance of the lived experience that everyone brings to those encounters. Remember, we are all patients, or we will be at some point, and all of us need and deserve to really be seen. Another highlight of your oath is your commitment to restore trust and combat misinformation. Sadly, misinformation and the outright denial of the impact of certain diseases has plagued medicine throughout history, especially in my discipline of infectious diseases. When the first smallpox vaccine was developed, misinformation about its utility was common, and that legacy of vaccine misinformation plagues us to this very day. In the field of HIV, misinformation about the dangers of the virus, and even denial that HIV causes AIDS or caused AIDS, led to many unnecessary deaths as people did not access and receive life-saving treatment. Of course, during the pandemic, there were many examples of misinformation that dissuaded people from taking advantage of life-saving vaccines and therapies, leading to avoidable suffering and death. People got all kinds of different messages, including a spectrum of opinions, even from trained physicians. Some were very vocal, pushing therapies that evidence-based trials showed were completely ineffective and, in fact, sometimes harmful. For many people who were listening, in particular, there was an element of, I really don't know who to believe. I didn't really trust you to start with, and now I definitely don't trust you because you can't get your story straight. So the challenge of misinformation is a critical one for all of us to address. Changing people's minds once they have embraced false narratives is one of the hardest challenges you may face in your future careers. As scientists, physicians, and public health experts, we often assume that because we think something is the right thing to do, or the best thing to do, everybody will just take our advice. I think we've gotten over that during the pandemic. As we saw during the pandemic, saying you must do this or else simply does not work for most people. But doing things differently takes both humility, which has been mentioned several times at the podium appropriately, and time, and sometimes that's time we don't seem to have. It takes time to talk with individual patients, or for that matter, the media, about what we know, admit what we don't know, or even that we don't know everything, and why we think a certain course is the best course of action. Again, only by actively listening and meeting people where they are will we rebuild trust and reduce the impact of misinformation. Finally, I'd like to thank you because your oath leaves me most of all with a feeling of optimism. With the powerful weapons in our medical arsenal, immunotherapies for cancer, sophisticated new imaging, genomics, the promise of artificial intelligence for discovery, and many others, we have a host of new tools to better diagnose, treat, and prevent disease. With the commitments to health equity and fairness that your class has beautifully articulated, I am confident that all of us who strive to be kinder, smarter, more effective physicians and scientists can deliver state-of-the-art care to all of our patients, regardless of their privilege. I'll end with one final quote. This is from Frederick Buechner, and it's a book called Wishful Thinking. The place God calls you to is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. Whatever your concept of God or of spirit, I fervently hope you find this place or places in your lifetime. Thank you for having me here today, and all sincerely the best wishes as you embark on your journey as physicians and scientists. Thank you.
Okay, so we have heard wonderful, inspiring comments from Dr. Murad. So it's time now to talk about what we're going to commit to through an oath as a physician. The Hippocratic Oath, as you all know, has been the traditional oath that every physician has taken, and this has been our tradition for almost 2,500 years. Of course, the world and medicine and healthcare has changed quite a bit since those idealistic days of Hippocrates and the Greeks. In 1948, after the extraordinary horror of World War II, there was a second modified oath, that's the Geneva Oath of 1948. And that's what traditionally we have now been administering to all physicians before they graduate. Of course, you are the trendsetters for not only taking that Geneva Oath, but also your own personal class oath. But to walk us through in the taking of the Geneva Oath, I'm going to call upon Dr. Joe Soyama, Professor and Vice Chair of Career Development in the Department of Emergency Medicine, as well as the Advisory Dean, to provide the reciting of the Declaration of the Geneva Oath. Thank you.
Would the graduates please rise? And please turn your book to the back where you'll find the Declaration of Geneva. While you do so, I wanted to ask you to bear with me a little bit, as I tend to get a little bit choked up whenever I read this declaration. And if things tend to go a little bit sideways, I'll ask you to read on and read so loudly, please. All right. Please recite with me. At the time of being admitted as a member of the medical profession, I solemnly pledge to consecrate my life to the service of humanity. I will give to my teachers the respect and gratitude which is their due. I will practice my profession with conscience and dignity. The health of my patient will be my first consideration. I will respect the secrets which are confided in me. I will maintain by all the means in my power the honor and the noble traditions of the medical profession. My colleagues will be my brothers and sisters. I will not permit considerations of religion, nationality, race, gender, politics, socioeconomic standing, or sexual orientation to intervene between my duty and my patient. I will maintain the utmost respect for human life, even under threat. I will not use my medical knowledge contrary to the laws of humanity. I make these promises solemnly, freely, and upon my honor. Please be seated.
I now invite Dr. Alda Maria Gonzaga, Professor of Medicine and Associate Dean for Student Affairs, to the lectern as we proceed with the hooding and awarding of diplomas for the Doctor of Medicine degree. Platform party, please take your place. Those present are requested to please be mindful of those around them and allowing open view of this ceremony for all members of the audience. The student services staff may now direct the graduates to the platform.
As we're getting ready, I'm going to add my greetings to all of you, Dr. Shaker, Dr. Marazzo, esteemed colleagues, honored guests, and most of all, to our amazing graduates. Like Dr. Shaker, I'd like to take a moment to thank our graduates' parents, spouses, and/or significant others for supporting this amazing class through the arduous journey of medical school. I often say Pitt Med makes outstanding doctors, and while you are no exception, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the uniqueness of your medical school experience. As mentioned before, you began medical school in the middle of that first frightening year of COVID. It was a scary time that was also filled with grief for lost experiences. In-person graduations, weddings, family gatherings, white coat ceremony. But you overcame, and you showed your resilience as you all quickly adapted to virtual education and pressed on. You went on to learn in a clinical environment that had adapted to the reality of COVID, and you pressed on. And not only did you press on, you soared. Your match was so phenomenal. Through your match results, you have all proved me right that Pitt Med makes outstanding doctors. And I'm happy to say that Pitt Med is proud of each and every one of you. And as we launch you onto the next leg of your journey, I'd like to share my advice. While you have all earned your MD degrees, this next chapter in your career still involves you being a learner. Residency training is truly a humbling experience, during which you will feel like you're learning a whole new body of knowledge and set of skills. And when you feel that humility, remember, you belong here in medicine. You belong in the fields that you've chosen, and don't let anyone ever make you believe otherwise. Everyone here at Pitt Med will always have your back, so please continue to use us as mentors and advisors. Never forget that you are learning from your patients because of their suffering. I ask that you be fully present as you care for them during some of the worst moments of their lives. As mentioned before, honor them in that moment. Pull up a chair and sit with them for a few minutes. Listen to their stories, their concerns. Translate the medical jargon that's been thrown at them. Our patients and their families remember how we, their physicians, treat them. I hope you all experience the unexpected delight of running into a patient you have cared for, who profusely thanks you for the care you provided. I hope you get to see the child you cared for in the emergency department running down the hall towards you one day. Or how having a parent thank you for helping them live with dignity. How the patient of a loved one who's died thanks you for how you help them transition into what comes beyond life. I hope one day you experience the thanks of a patient whose surgery really was life-changing, or how you're thanked for the cancer you treated that is gone and hasn't come back. I'd like you all to strive for excellence, not perfection. Our patients don't expect us to be perfect. They expect us to look up answers when we don't know them. They expect us to talk to our colleagues so that we're learning from each other and all on the same page about their care. It is totally normal to feel giddily anxious during this time of transition from medical student to physician. and it is a sign of humble confidence and maturity to ask for help when you need it. Each of you will be an amazing physician who changes the world and learns from the world. Apply the lessons you've learned here at Pitt Med throughout your careers. Be humbly confident in your accomplishments, and care for your patients with gratitude, respect, and the knowledge that you have tremendous impact on their lives. Please stay in touch, remembering you will be always part of the Pitt Med family. We will always be your cheerleaders, your mentors, and your confidants. And this next chapter will totally be exhilarating, everybody. Now it gives me great pleasure to invite our students up for hooding.
Dr. Alyssa Abarakis. Dr. Julia Apfelbacher. Dr. Mustafa Ali. Dr. Nick Aloy. Dr. Samantha Sharon Ashok. Dr. Emma Rosella Balan. Dr. Derek Barnagian. Dr. Phil Bartell. Dr. Kavya Burgu. Dr. Richard Benjamin Brown. Dr. Wesley Brown. Dr. Michael Boldo Licciardi. Dr. Alex Berlew. Dr. Anson Burr. Dr. Allison Elaine Butler. Dr. Wesley Kai. Dr. Noel Bien Carlos. Dr. Sabrina Carosi. Dr. Jordan Chang. Dr. Grace Chen. Dr. Mark Connell. Dr. Morgan Corin. Dr. Samuel Crowley. Dr. Raphael John Crum. Dr. Asha Cunningham. Dr. Robert L. Dembensky. Dr. Nikita Desai. Dr. Samuel Dino. Dr. Matthew Dribbin. Dr. Victor Ekechiadi. Dr. Emmanuel Feld. Dr. Logan Edward Finger. Dr. Aisha Furtis. Dr. Matthew Fish. Dr. Catherine Foster. Dr. George C. Gabriel. Dr. Vito Alfred Galati II. Dr. Joseph Garvey. Dr. Will Gaudier. Dr. Ryan Gilbert. Dr. Paulomi Gohel. Dr. Panagiotis Michael Goulias. Dr. Michael Colin Granovetter. Dr. Danielle Gruen. Dr. David Guerrero. Dr. Astrid Arisbeth Guevara de Cotril. Dr. Kanupriya Gupta. Dr. Cameron Hallahan. Dr. Renee Hart. Dr. Alexis Hester. Dr. Allison Mitchell Heyman. Dr. Megan Hoppy. Dr. Joey Shu. Dr. Pooja Humar. Dr. Nathan D'Antonio Heyer. Dr. Ranusha Indralingam. Dr. Shruti Jaishankar. Dr. Antalya Jano. Dr. Jillian Kane. Dr. Rachel Can. Dr. Julia Knight Scheffner. Dr. Tessa Eileen Kovacs. Dr. Melissa Lee Kukowski. Dr. Chirini Kurukula Surya. Dr. Alexander Layden. Dr. Anthony Linster. Dr. Caitlin Little. Dr. Alicia Leo. Dr. Allison Caitlin Mack. Dr. Sean McLean. Dr. Diana Cecilia Mendoza Cervantes. Dr. Dana Meshkin. Dr. Cameron Doviak Metz. Dr. Udit Modi. Dr. Mariam Zarempe Mogadam. Dr. Antoinette Montilebano. Dr. Jeffrey Moorhead Jr. Dr. Mark Anthony Moses. Dr. Daniel Charles Muchnock III. Dr. Sarah McKenzie Myers. Dr. Janie Narayan. Dr. Bara S. Newash. Dr. Sarah Marie Niederberger. Dr. Confidence Njoku Austin. Dr. Grace Campbell Noel. Dr. Rosalie Nolan. Dr. Molly Oken. Dr. Tito Oluwatoyosi Aneyekwali. Dr. Kimberly Ortiz de Sosa. Dr. Mariana Owak. Dr. Nikita Patel. Dr. Kelsey Paxton. Dr. Elizabeth Plaxichuk. Dr. Vlad Roskazovsky. Dr. Rajiv Reddy. Dr. Madison Remick. Dr. Brandon Richter. Dr. Jacqueline Ridgely Torado. Dr. Dominic Rodolfi. Dr. Brian Rosario. Dr. Corinne Nicole Rutledge. Dr. Samantha Lynn Salum. Dr. Kirti Samantha Budi. Dr. Alexandria Sasaki. Dr. Joshua Sherba. Dr. Rishabh Kumar Sera. Dr. Amrish Selvam. Dr. Joshua Charles Setliff. Dr. Nikhil Sharma. Dr. Annapurni Sriram. Dr. Kishiraja Alamelu Sriram. Dr. Andre Stone. Dr. Madeline Monique Stout. Dr. Alex Talbot. Dr. Shavan Sunny Thomas. Dr. Roger Tew. Dr. Savannah A. Tollefson. Dr. Alexandra Tompkins. Dr. Paolo Dario Angelo Vignali. Dr. Lena Vodovots. Dr. Sophie Faye Wecht. Dr. Megan Yates. Dr. Aaron Zhang. And Dr. Toby Zhu.
All right. Once Toby gets back to his seat, I would like the entire class of 2024 to stand up so that we may congratulate our newest graduates and doctors of medicine. You may all sit. This concludes the hooding and awarding of diplomas for the Doctor of Medicine degree. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Savannah Tollefson, who is selected to represent this year's graduating class, followed by Dr. Ann Thompson, Vice Dean Emerita, School of Medicine, Distinguished Service Professor Emerita of Critical Care Medicine, who will deliver the closing remarks.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Dr. Gonzaga. Hi. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed faculty, honored guests, and my newly hooded fellow graduates, I have to say this is the biggest doctor's appointment I have ever been to. But in all seriousness, as we draw near to the close of this momentous occasion, I am overwhelmed with an immense sense of gratitude. Amidst the chaotic early mornings of pre-rounding and the late nights of studying, it is sometimes easy to lose sight of the individuals who have been our pillars of strength, our family, friends, mentors, and colleagues, those who have stood by our side through every triumph and every setback. Their unwavering support has offered solace in moments of doubt and inspiration in times of need. Let us never forget the profound impact that these individuals have had in our journey and the roles they will continue to play in our future success. But as we express our gratitude, let us also recognize the strength within ourselves. While we have had support in our journey, it was us alone who navigated the challenges of medical school. We pushed past our limits. We overcame metaphorical and literal obstacles, and despite all of these, we emerged stronger and more capable than ever. As we reflect on our journey, let us remind ourselves of the importance of humility. We have come a long way from our first day of medical school when we could hardly identify the vagus nerve. And 4 years later, we now know the anatomy, physiology, and pathophysiology of multiple disease processes. We understand the biological nuance and management of things like COPD exacerbations, myocardial infarctions, and countless other conditions. And despite all of this, we still have a lot to learn. Beyond humility and knowledge, I want to remind us that our journey is more than just acquiring knowledge and achieving personal success. It's about embracing humility and service and true selflessness. Humility and service is not just a virtue, it's the cornerstone of our profession, guiding us to put the needs of others before our own and to approach every situation with an open heart and an open mind. In conclusion, let us carry profound gratitude for those who continue to support us, have strength in the face of adversity, and to start this next chapter of our lives with humility, knowing that true greatness lies not in what we achieve, but in how we serve others. Congratulations, class of 2024. Our journey has been one of growth, discovery, and transformation, and I have no doubt the best is yet to come. This is truly a remarkable group. And I want to, as we move forward, we have a bunch of things, exciting things to look forward to, whether it's research and taking care of community. I think it's important to remind ourselves we have a long way to go. Congratulations again, and thank you for this time.
I'm touched and honored to be asked to be the faculty speaker at your graduation. Thank you. You've reached this point in your careers after challenges not experienced at any other time in recent history. Congratulations. As most of you know, I'm almost retired, ending my medical career just as you begin yours. Your commencement represents what I believe to be the beginning of a chance to do some of the best work in the world. No doubt you've had moments when you wondered why in the world you thought medicine was a good idea. But in balance, I hope you know that we are among the most fortunate people in the world. We have the opportunity to do work that is profoundly meaningful, valuable, fulfilling, and good. Many aspects of medicine have changed in my half century in the profession. In my orientation, we were told that our class was the most diverse ever for that school. In that class of 120, there were 12 women and 5 students of color. As I look out at you and see this wonderful group of people, it's clear that we've made some important progress. Some of the diseases prevalent in my ICU when I came here have largely disappeared. We have changed fundamental management of many illnesses. Outcomes for a whole host of disorders have improved dramatically, from life-threatening infections to organ failure to cancers to the results of major surgery. I hope you'll be the source of ideas for more change, whether in research that leads to new treatments, or developing new devices, or helping our health systems become more available to all. There is so much work left to be done. You've learned a huge amount in these years. You've worked incredibly hard to get countless facts into your brain, and you've barely scratched the surface. It will be important to continue to learn every day. Experiencing the sheer joy of learning something new, coming to understand something that didn't make sense before, can really sustain your pleasure in the work. I hope you'll teach students or staff or colleagues you work with, as well as your patients and their families. It's another way to keep learning. Some of you know that I was the division chief of pediatric critical care at Children's for about 30 years. When I was interviewing for that job a year out of training, I was asked why I'd chosen intensive care. I said then, and I feel now, that I loved the mix of fast-paced, complex, multi-system disease and highly technological care, combined with the opportunity to support patients and families through what was necessarily one of the most difficult and frightening periods in their lives. I learned hearing our patients' stories teaches about what is important to them, how they make decisions, what previous experiences influence their thinking. When we listen, we establish ourselves as interested in them beyond their diagnoses. When decisions need to be made, we know how to make recommendations that make sense to them. We are better able to make a difference in their experience of illness or injury, sometimes even between life and death. We can earn their trust that we will handle their bodies, their feelings, indeed their lives well. Whatever your next step, the combination I've loved can be true for you. Regardless of the field you've chosen, the science of medicine has become more and more interesting. The opportunity to intervene successfully is so much greater, and the chance to share patients' and families' hopes, fears, joy, or sorrow is such a privilege. I cannot imagine better work. I want to thank you all for being here with your incredible talents and willingness to work so hard. You're an inspiration and a joy to work with. Hearing your stories, learning from you, observing your accomplishments, and sharing some of your pleasure as you move toward your dreams has been another privilege. I wish you all profoundly meaningful, valuable, fulfilling, and good work, and the joy that goes with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne and Savannah, for those wonderful words. So now we're going to take about 15 minutes break for the second half of the graduation. Just kidding. No, we're almost there. So the last thing I have to do is, and this is the final academic process, where I have to essentially ask each of you to stand up and receive your degrees from the trustees of the University of Pittsburgh. So, to start with, let me ask all of the master's degree graduates to please stand. It's by the authority vested in me by the trustees of the University of Pittsburgh, it's my pleasure to award all of you Masters of Science graduates degree from University of Pittsburgh. Congratulations. Please be seated. Would all the PhD awardees please stand? By the authority vested in me by the University of Pittsburgh trustees, it is my pleasure to award all of you the degree of Doctor of Philosophy from the University of Pittsburgh. Congratulations. Please be seated. Will all the MD recipients please stand? By the authority vested in me by the trustees of the University of Pittsburgh, it is my pleasure to award all of you the degree of Doctor of Medicine from the University of Pittsburgh. Congratulations. Please be seated. Behind those who have received their degrees today are many others who have encouraged, supported, and helped these graduates attain their academic and professional goals. They certainly deserve our appreciation. Will the parents, spouses, and guests of all the graduates, as well as all the Pitt Med faculty and staff present, please rise. The University of Pittsburgh and its trustees are incredibly grateful for everything you have done to support our graduates and our faculty for all the great work they do. Thank you.
Now that you've all sat down, would you please rise again for the singing of Pitt's alma mater. may be seated. On behalf of the Medical Alumni Association, I wish to offer our congratulations to the class of 2024. We welcome you and encourage you to become active members of the Alumni Association. Now, as we prepare to leave, I do ask that our audience members please remain seated until the faculty and graduates have exited the auditorium. I also invite all of you to join us across the street at the William Penn Union for a reception. Will all the graduates please stand? I now officially declare the Diploma Day ceremony closed. And I ask that the platform party please follow me.
that? We'll do it again?